Hey guys, it's Kevin in my review for Our Friend. What Our Friend is essentially about is we center on this couple. We have Nicole and we have Matthew, and things are going great in their lives until one day where Nicole ends up contracting ovarian cancer, and what at first seems like a minor inconvenience becomes something a lot more prominent that really starts to take a toll in their lives. And when hearing about it, their friend Dane, who really has been the only person left to really care for them, he decides to upend his entire life and moves into their home and basically does whatever he can to make this very devastating event a lot less stressful and have a much bigger impact on the family as a result. So Our Friend overall, I wasn't really that excited for this film. I thought that it just, we get a lot of cancer dramas pretty much every single year, and it just didn't really seem like this one was going to be anything that different. It felt very been there, done that in that way, so I wasn't really all that excited for this film, especially with it being January and this not being a film that's been widely talked about in terms of like award consideration and things like that. I just wasn't really that hopeful when it came to this one, but I have to say, after watching it, Our Friend really surprised me. This is a much different film than I really was expecting. It's a film that, yes, is very somber, but also is a lot more hopeful than I think you really are expecting as well, and one that I ended up enjoying quite a bit, that I think is one of the more fresher approaches to this story that I've seen, and definitely works for a lot of reasons. But we're getting to right now, starting off with the cast, and that I think is easily the best thing about this entire movie. I think the cast just does such an excellent job throughout this entire film. Every single actor really brings their A game, and let's first talk about Jason Seagal, who it is so great to finally see him back in a film. I feel like it's really been a minute since he's gotten the opportunity to really show off his acting chops, but he reminds you very quickly in this film just how good of an actor that he really is. Not only is he so insanely likable as the character of Dane, but he brings so much heart and so much passion to this role. You understand the kind of person that he is. He brings a lot of complexity to the role as well, just showing how much care Dane really has for everyone. And I really just love Seagal's performance throughout this entire movie. He had some really great moments throughout this film, and I think is really the thing that anchors this entire movie. I think if he wasn't in it, I don't think the film would be nearly as good as it really was, and it's easily, I think, just such an amazing comeback for him. I really hope that we get to see more performances from him, further down the line and more consistently, because he really is such a underrated actor in that way, and this film will very much remind you of why. But the other performance that really impressed me in this movie is Dakota Johnson, who I think is one of her best performances yet as the character of Nicole, because Nicole is someone that, she could be portrayed in a very stereotypical way, where she starts to worsen and she starts to deteriorate a ton, and she does, but the film does a really good job of getting you to see the type of person that Nicole really is. Nicole isn't someone that isn't just going to lay down and die. She's someone that cares too much about the people in her life to really do that. And so I felt like Johnson, she brought a lot of spunk and a lot of fearlessness to this role, and I really enjoyed getting to see that here. You really could see the type of person that Nicole really was, and it made her that much more likable in that sense, and I just really like the way that Johnson went about it. She has one scene, especially in literally the first 5 minutes of this movie, that honestly had me on the verge of tears, and they don't really stop there. She just did such a great job of transforming into this character, and really takes you on a journey, and I really loved what she ended up doing throughout this entire film. I thought she gave one of the strongest performances here, and then Casey Affleck as well. We know that he is a really great actor, and he does a very good job here because he's someone that is very conflicted. He really loves his wife a lot, but at the same time, he's starting to lose a lot of hope. He doesn't know how much longer Nicole really does have left, so he's not really sure how to go about this entire thing on his own, and I really thought he did a great job throughout this entire movie. I thought his performance, it felt so natural in that way, and that's what I will say for all three of these actors, is that their performances, they felt so natural and authentic. Nobody felt like they were half-assing it or hamming it up in any way. These felt like real people, and that's because they honestly were real people, and I thought everyone just did a great job here acting-wise. I really was impressed by pretty much everyone in this film, and I really enjoyed the cast here a lot. But now let's get to the directing and the writing, because that is the other thing that really sticks out to me when it comes to this film. I think Gabriela Cowperthwaite's directing is really well done here, because she could portray this in a very somber and very depressing manner. And though there are many moments in this movie that are definitely very hard to watch, for sure, she's trying to make this feel a lot more hopeful. She wants to focus less on what's going to happen and more just enjoying the moment and trying to embrace, as much time as you really can. You know what is going to happen to Nicole eventually, but the film really wants to focus on, again, how much, Dane has provided for them, how much Dane cares for them, and I think that makes the film feel a lot more hopeful as a result. The film is also very funny at many points. I was laughing a lot more than I was expecting to, and I thought that's something that Thwaite did a very good job with, but again, it never undermines the tragedy of this film. When this film wants to get dark, it really does go for it in that last act, and it feels that much more earned because, again, those first two acts are really positive. Yes, there are moments that are emotional, but it takes a while for us to get to the really hard-hitting stuff, and I thought, again, her directing was just a really great example of that. She did a great job of taking a cancer drama and bringing a much more fresher approach, and I really enjoyed her directing throughout this film. But the writing here, I think, is also really well done, especially when it comes to our characters here. I mean, each of these characters are really well written, especially our main character of Dane. I mean, he's someone that he really is just the best friend possible. He's there for them when they need him to be, but not even when they don't need him to be. He is there for them. He starts to develop more of a bond with their kids. He starts to grow closer with Dakota Johnson's character and becomes really her only, real friend in this scenario. He just does everything he possibly can, but he also is very selfless in that way. He has a life of his own where you see that he is at a bit of, he's at a place in his life where he doesn't really know what he's doing outside of being a friend to these characters. And I really like getting to see that throughout this entire movie. You really do feel like Dane is someone that goes through a significant arc in this film. There are many points where he easily could just up and leave, but he chooses to stay because he cares about these people too much to do that. And I thought the film did a really good job with that too. And you really do care about him, but then you also really care about Nicole and Matthew, because they're a couple that, you really want things to work out between them. You understand how much they care about each other and how dependent they really are upon one another. And I think the film does a very good job with that. Nicole especially, she goes through a very significant arc in this movie. You start things off and, she's this really successful theater actress and she's got all these friends and things like that and everyone really loves her, but over time, things start to deteriorate. As her mental health deteriorates, as her health deteriorates, so does the people in her life. They start to kind of go away, and you can see that this does have an impact on her because she cares a lot about that social life. She cares a lot about what she's going through, and the fact that she can't interact with them, it is something that really does kind of nag at her, and you see that throughout this entire movie, and I think they do a really good job of that. And then again, Matthew, the way that he is really dealing with this situation and the impact it really does have on him, I thought, again, was just so well written in that way. And the way the film approaches cancer itself, I mean, it does it in a way that feels very, I think, relatable to a lot of people. I thankfully have never been in a situation where I've known anyone that close to me that suffered from cancer, but I know how much it can take a toll on people's lives. And the way this film goes about it, I mean, it's absolutely devastating to see these characters, have to deal with this situation and have to go about it in the way that they do. But I think the film just does such a great job with that overall, and I was very impressed by the way they decided to do it in this movie. I think everything story-wise here is really well done in terms of the screenplay. The other thing I think that's a really interesting approach to this movie is that a lot of this film is done in a non-linear manner. We do have the present where Nicole is, on her last days, and you know that she isn't going to make it that much longer, but it's contrasted with getting to see more lighthearted moments within their lives, when Dane first met this couple, when they became friends, when Dane first decided to make this decision and things like that, other moments in their lives that had a bigger impact on them. It gives you a lot more understanding of why this matters so much, who these characters really are, and I think the film definitely does a really good job of that, and that's something else that I really enjoyed about this film. They could have easily done this in a linear structure, but I feel like because of the way the film is done, it just gives it a more fresh approach in that way. It helps the film stick out more, and I really did like that here, because again, the film doesn't want to dwell too much on the heart-aching moments. It does, but that's not its entire focus. It wants to really give you time to get to know who everyone is, and I really did like seeing that throughout this entire film. But like I said, I think writing-wise, there's a lot here that really does work overall. In terms of the cinematography, I think this film is very well filmed. There's a lot of shots that definitely do stick out in my mind, and I thought overall it was just very well filmed. And the score, I really enjoyed a lot, but especially the soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack really worked well in this movie. There are a lot of songs that have very deep significance in this film, and I thought they did a really good job with that. And the editing, though this film is 2 hours, it really did fly by for me. I didn't really find this film dragging all that much, and I do think for the most part it really did work in terms of pacing. Now, in terms of flaws with this movie, this definitely is not a perfect film at all. There are a couple things that do bring it down. First being, because we are moving so fast in the sense where it's literally in the span of 6 years, and we don't really, and we know where we are throughout the movie. It's not like we're confused as to where we are. It just feels like some plot lines, they don't really get the amount of time that they really should. I mean, the whole idea of Nicole kind of up, all of her friends just kind of up and leaving is not really something that we really do see in this movie. It's something that we hear about, but I would have liked to see more of the impact that it's taking on her. I would have liked to see more of just the transition in her life. It would be tragic, obviously, but it would add more dimensions to that story, and I wish they could have maybe dived into that a little bit more. But especially when it comes to the marital problems within Nicole and Matthew's life, they try to force in this subplot where you start to see the situation that comes about and the impact it really has on them, and you just aren't that invested because it feels like there are some gaps that were missing. There are some things that they could have done a better job at really getting us to understand why this matters so much, and I just don't think they did a really great job with that side of things. I would have liked to see more of what's really going on there. And the only other flaw I will say in this movie is that as a character, we do understand who Dane is. We do. We understand that there's a lot going on in his life, but there is a romantic subplot going on with him where he has this, girlfriend of sorts, and we only really see her once, and I would have liked to see more of their relationship, how he's dealing with this whole thing. What is she really going through? We kind of just hear about it, and it's honestly something that you kind of forget. They have this one scene, and then it's not really shown all that much again, and I wish they could have done a little bit more with that overall, and it would have just added to Dane's character, seeing how he's navigating this whole thing, why he continues to stay in their lives, and again, I think they do a good job at developing his character, but that is the one element that I would have liked to see just a little bit more of overall. But other than that, Our Friend, I think, is a very fresh and surprisingly very hopeful film that I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy a lot. It's got 3 excellent performances from both Jason Seagal, Dakota Johnson, and Casey Affleck, respectfully. Everyone does a really great job in this film. Acting-wise, it's got some really well-done writing. It does have a structure that I think might annoy some people, but for me, I thought it made the film feel that much fresher in its approach, though it does have have a few underwritten elements. Overall, I enjoyed this film a lot more than I really did expect to. It's not your typical cancer drama. It goes in some directions that you really aren't expecting, and overall, I think it just makes for me, the first really big surprise of the entire year, and I am going to give Our Friend overall a B. But over, guys, to my review of Our Friend. Let me know what you guys saw this Marielle, their thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.